Actually, now, hopefully, I got some audio coming in and you guys are hearing me just fine, just making sure that we're going good. All right, so today our discussion is going to be about cryptocurrency, and the conversation that I think a lot of people are concerned about is how does cryptocurrency affect real estate and real estate in general. So the conversation that is right now going on in the marketplace is how is this going to inject with things like Bitcoin hitting 60 plus $1,000 in value? What does that mean to you whenever we discuss crypto and so on and so forth? Well, the conversation is a little bit muted by the fact that it's a different discussion between cryptocurrency and actually using things like NFTs or non-fungible tokens in real estate, because these are different conversations entirely, but they talk about it in the same format with discussing crypto and real estate. So the conversation that I want to have today is what does that mean for you? So let's just jump right into it and have a quick conversation about where we're at in the general sense of this conversation. So in the normal circumstance, what we're looking at is this discussion of crypto. Okay, so we have a title right now. Okay, so title information comes in, right? So we receive a title commitment right now that is usually received within 20 to 30 days, or excuse me, 10 to 20 days before the transaction happens. Okay, so if it happens 10 to 20 days before the transaction happens, basically we're waiting for that to happen through the process. Okay, sometimes title can run that out a lot faster, but the reality is that title commitment only is something of value whenever it identifies something quick and identifies any of the problems that could happen. So, how does NFT and that translate into this, right? So, NFTs are non fungible tokens, and that concept is that an NFT now holds ownership of the property. Okay. And that can be transferred into that numbers, into the concepts of how that numbers work to be transferred from an asset into another asset. Okay. So this is done through a hard drive or a digital file that allows it to go through, right? So if you have a digital file or a hard drive that holds the entire ownership right of said file. Now, currently, this is only being seen in digital files, things like GIFs or JPEGs that are currently in the market being sold as art, but they are figuring out a way to translate this into real estate. So, what would happen in real estate? Well, a non fungible token would be created with all the ownership files of said property. Okay, so who's going to have the access to this? Well, let's go through a couple different concepts of this. So, first off, title is going to have to figure out how to create this NFT. Once that NFT is created, though, does that defunct title from being able to function in this method? Because now if I want to sell a property, I just take my NFT and I sell it to somebody else that already has all the ownership right of that property. And let's say that I got ownership on solar panels and they have a loan on those solar panels. Well, then the NFT is just held by or has a line item that will state that this must be paid off before that NFT is transferred in whole. So, what does this mean? Well, think of NFT or a non fungible token kind of like a title policy, but it's a title policy wrapped in with a deed. Okay. So basically, the deed is not transferred until the NFT is taken care of. Any outstanding balances, outstanding loans, any of that has to be held. Let's go back a little bit and maybe talk about like it's going to turn into kind of like a car ownership. The title of that car can be transferred very easily from party to party by just simply signing and compensation. NFTs could turn real estate into that simple transfer because all the public access would now be falling down to the NFT being organized. Now, let's go back a little bit and have a discussion about this gentleman that had a large amount of Bitcoin sitting on a hard drive, and he was cleaning out his house and he threw away all that Bitcoin. Okay, so what happens now? That Bitcoin is sitting in a dump, and people have been looking for it for years now. It's 160 plus $1 million of Bitcoin sitting in a dump because they were all on a hard drive. So now the conversation goes down to if this NFT technology goes into play and turns into real estate, does that mean that your ownership is on a hard drive or on a digital document? And the answer is yes. Now, I think that title companies, if this happens, will have to translate into kind of vaults for that NFT technology, and maybe that's where they start to make money. There's a lot of ways that this could still work if it's used appropriately and if people actually have the conversation the right way. But the simple and plain of it is this: we are simplifying, as a general public, the technology is simplifying the transfer of ownership. This has already happened. When I got into business, we had to wait for documents to be manually sent to the county to be scanned and organized. Today, those documents are digitally put into the county. So the question is, would there be now a new technology that would hold all ownership right in a digital file that now can be transferred from party to party simply? The answer is, I think there's a way to approach this that everybody wins, and there's a way to approach it that few people lose, but the industry in general wins. So the conversation is, how are title companies going to accept this? And I think, unfortunately, title companies are looking at this in the inappropriate manner. They're looking at this as a competitor rather than looking at it as a disruptor to organize the model. This is the concept of Amazon, right? When Amazon, in my time, when it started, was just a place that you could go get your textbooks. You could get them for discount price. Well, those that saw that and adapted to it grew, whereas those that didn't see it fell by the wayside. And that's the conversation that's happening right now with NFTs and the concept of real estate being changed. I still think there's going to be a realtor involved, and I still think a title has a place to be involved if they evaluate how this actually organizes into our next dynamic. Now, all this stuff sounds foreign to a lot of you, and I'm sure a lot of you are not paying attention to it, but it is becoming more and more relevant. I just came back from a conference where it was an actual discussion, and it was a very well attended conversation in how it adapts to the current environment. Now, the use of other types of points, like things like using cryptocurrency to purchase properties, allow for that to happen when you start to use NFTs as well. So now you start to translate currencies into the equation as well. It's a broad spectrum, and as the environment changes, we just need to be responsible about paying attention to it. So baseline, bottom line, how do I think this is going to rotate? The real question is how title companies accept it, because I think NFTs will start to see action in real estate within the next 6 to 18 months. The question is, how are title companies going to accept this? How are mortgage companies going to accept this? If they both work in a coherent method to grow, then I think there will be some value, or certain title companies will do this and find value, because I think the title policy in general is going to change into maybe more of a hosting environment. Because to be honest, if I have a document that holds all my ownership of all my properties, I probably don't want to have that in my vault at home. I probably want to have that in a place that's going to ensure the fact that I don't lose that documentation, that I don't lose any of that filing. Remember, a wipeout of a hard drive and I don't have a property anymore, that terrifies me. So there's going to be hosting environments to manage these NFTs, because there are going to be environments that have to be redundant and upkept. Maybe that's the new environment that title companies can supervise and grow. Second question is, what about mortgage companies? Well, mortgage companies have already had the conversation of using cryptocurrency as purchasing environment or down payment environment. So now the question is, okay, are they going to accept NFTs as definition of ownership? I think the first ones to do this, and you've already had a couple companies talk about this. So the first ones through the line are going to be the ones that see success because they're willing to adapt to what the environment is. So truth is, what you need to do is you need to find out what an NFT is and do a simple Google search. Type in crypto and real estate. That way you can get an idea of what people are talking about, because my translation and my interpretation of what I've just given you is purely based on a hypothetical thought process of where I see it going. Doesn't mean it will happen. It just means that I've compiled my knowledge into an idea that I think is going to happen. Now, the question is, what do you think is going to happen? And I think this is going to be one of the new environments that realtors are successful or not successful moving forward. So don't hold out until everybody's talking about it. Think about it, work through it. We had a discussion about 6 months ago where this wasn't as relevant. And today I'm telling you it is becoming more relevant because I watched a class that had seats for 200 and had 800 people trying to attend that class. Think about that for a second, that it is opening dialogues, that people are talking about it regularly. All right, guys, thank you for your time. Remember, we have a couple other series going this week. We have Tea with Andrew going on Wednesday at 3 o'clock Mountain Time, and we have Fundamentals with Kent and Andrew happening at 2 o'clock on Thursday. Tune in for those great classes. If you are an EXP agent, you also have the ability to join our agent attraction meeting. That is at 9 o'clock Mountain Time on Friday. If you have any questions, concerns, or need anything else, please don't hesitate. Thank you for joining, and have a great day.